Hey gang, welcome to Big Brother and the Hodling Company. It's a podcast about music and Web3 and trying to fend off Big Brother. I'm a Keegan voice. Today I spoke with Kiddest Sinke, Cole Ryan, and Ben Frigeri. All three had intimate roles at the Web3 label Dreams Never Die, which despite raising $2.5 million, building a dedicated community of passionate music people, and recently selling out 1,000 founder passes in less than 24 hours, in what was a strong signal of the brand's commitment to Web3, decided to restructure the organization and revisit their mission. Tumult followed, and none of these three, Kiddest, the organization's community manager, nor Cole and Ben, two of the Dreams Never Die co-founders, are at the organization any longer. The story of what happened is worth diving into, so we spoke about all of this, as well as their passion for the work that Dreams Never Die was doing, and their continued belief in the importance of centering music and community in their work. Hope you all enjoy the conversation. Here we go. Hey everybody, it's great to have you here. Thank you for taking the time. We have more guests on than usual for one of these recordings. So to begin, I just want to start by giving you each some space to introduce yourselves. And then if you could mention maybe where you grew up, where you currently are, and when your relationship with music started. That'd be great.
Hi, my name is Kiddest. I am from Oregon, but currently based in Los Angeles. And I was the community manager for Dreams Never Die. My start in music came around, well, when I was a kid, I always made music. But in terms of my career, I got my start in music in the beginning of the pandemic in 2020 or 2019, actually through Dream Never Die's like blog component before the data. And then around the same time was also doing a lot of freelance music journalism, interviewing different artists on their projects and doing social media management for a few other record labels at the same time.
Cool. Thanks, Kiddest.
Cool. I'm Ben, originally from New Jersey, currently based in Brooklyn, New York. I grew up as like a band geek. I went to like band camp and stuff and learned how to play clarinet and refound that like initial love for music back in school. I started out as like a producer a little bit, making like writing out like SoundCloud EDM wave, and then I got put in touch with the folks over at Hilly Dilly at the time, which is how me and Cole got connected like way back. So that was like my first like introduction into like music discovery and everything that followed with that. And yeah, I've spent some time at like across a couple different record labels, mostly working in A&R, working with artists of different sizes, helping them grow, helping them scale. And that job has changed significantly over the years. And most recently, obviously, like came on board the Dreams Never Die team to take those skills and apply them in a new way. And yeah, super happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Thanks, Ben.
Hey everyone, I'm Cole. I've been the co-founder and CEO of Dreams Never Die. I'm from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and I grew up obsessed with music blogs, music discovery. I was a huge nerd, would follow like 30 music blogs a day, essentially sifting through new music. My favorite one was called Hilly Dilly, and that was how I personally took my first step into the music industry unknowingly. So I wrote over 1,000 posts at Hilly Dilly and went on to work various different jobs in music at record labels and management companies, and eventually went on to create Dreams Never Die with these people here. And I'm currently based all over the place. So yeah, I don't really have a home right now. Just moving around.
What about this very moment?
I'm in Ocala, Florida. So on a horse farm.
Cool.
This is a new spot for me. I'm
Cole's
normally based in Los Angeles.
Cole's actually in the other room right now.
Oh my God.
He's in New York.
Cool. Thank you all for sharing. Appreciate that. I wonder, just for context, if maybe this question makes most sense for you, Cole, since you had the longest tenure with Dreams Never Die, if you could just talk a little bit, 30,000 feet overview of kind of what, the history of the project was, starting with Hilly Dilly, moving moving forward, just approximate years and how it evolved, because it's obviously a big difference going from a music blog to what Dreams Never Die ultimately became.
Yeah, absolutely. Hilly Dilly existed before I hopped on. It was founded in 2007 as an outlet for the founder, Chad, to share music more efficiently than burning mixed CDs, essentially. It grew into this really cool thing that created a community around it just based on the quality of discoveries. And eventually people just showed up and started helping out. And that's how all of us came together, and most of the team who did become Dreams Never Die actually assembled, which is super cool. Hilly Dilly was a very unique project in that there wasn't necessarily a plan. The plan was find the best artists in the world and put them out there. And in a lot of ways, it did that. It was really successful. It was a really fun time for music discovery, is whenever SoundCloud music discovery was really like in its heyday. And all of these really amazing artists were popping up all over the internet. And there was an audience ready to receive those artists and become fans. Eventually, we realized that Hilly Dilly was not going to make us money, especially running it the way that we wanted to. So we started a record label called Dreams Never Die. That was in 2019. And it began as more of a traditional label, a tiny indie label, doing small EP deals and single deals with artists. We worked with a lot of very talented artists very early in their careers. Almost every artist we worked with, we released their debut track. So we're developing and launching artists from zero, which is super fun and rewarding and extremely challenging, especially as the industry started to change and become more difficult than ever to get heard with so much noise, more music than ever being created and released. So we ran into all of these hurdles. We saw COVID happen and touring take a huge hit. The economics of becoming a sustainable artist becomes so challenging. And working with sustainable artists as well just became another massive problem for people passionate about good music. So we started Dreams Never Died, the community, which we intended to become a community owned, community run record label, one of the first of its kind. We thought the idea was super exciting. We started it in the fall of 2021 and pretty quickly received funding from Polychain, which was a big moment for us and allowed us to actually hire staff and really give the whole thing a go. And that's when things got very interesting and exciting. And we started experimenting in ways that we thought were pretty novel and interesting.
Yeah, no, I've always really admired the project for being one of the places that leveraged these moments of organic music discovery and then created more value out of those moments of discovery. I think that's something that the streaming paradigm doesn't do a great job at. Discovering like a transcendent piece of music or new artist is transcendent. And it's really difficult to do anything but save a song to a playlist. So creating a vehicle and a means to redirect that value, to make it the connective thread, I think, between the person who made the music and the people who might want to hear the music is really powerful. I've always admired that about the project. And yeah, so of course, the after that, some other things happened in the history of Dreams Never Die, and it was a really exciting moment. Cole, we and Ben, we all connected just a couple months ago and had a conversation under different conditions. It was when Dreams Never Die was about to launch the member pass, which was really cool, and that was a successful launch, and things changed after that. And I'd love to hear in any and all of your words, as much as you can say, about what happened.
Yeah, totally. I could kick it off and just talk about my personal experience and then kind of lob it up for Kiddest and Cole. I think like I joined Dreams Never Die one because it was like a really cool, exciting project that I could just do with my friends, first and foremost. It was a project that I think really tried to address a lot of the issues I was personally seeing with the music industry, just from my time and my experience working in various creative roles at various different places. And the main thing that I think made Dreams Never Die stand out almost from the get-go, like Cole touched upon, was just how many cool, awesome people joined the Discord right away and how much that grew. And very quickly, like the ethos of the people that would pop into our like weekly recap calls and our scouts calls, talk in the general channel, they began to embody like a lot of the characteristics of what I came to love so much about the community. And very quickly, and I think also represented through the Founder Pass launch, the community's pulse on various things, and good and bad, became like a really great signifier for just, I don't know, how the space was, how good the memes were, anything. So the last couple of months, I think we can just point to the way that the communities reacted and their specific reactions and their emotions towards the last couple of months on their end. I think nothing better would signify that, as opposed to the amazing amount of people who came out and really just said how they felt with regard to how things went down. Dreams Never Die became a place where it started out, especially as a place of a ton of inclusivity, mutual respect, and all those sorts of things. And I think because of that foundation, a lot of these community members felt like they had a voice and agency to express how they felt about how things went down. And more than anything, it was just super awesome to see that, to really just see like people who I became friends with from working at Dreams Never Die to share how they felt the company was moving in that specific direction and how it impacts them. Because I think we could look towards the way that it impacted the community as a really great kind of litmus and metric to gauge how things happen overall. And yeah, as I look back on the last couple of months and Dreams Never Die in general, it's all about the community. I know it's like a huge buzzword, but that's how we got to this place to have this conversation, because of the like dozens of awesome people who like submitted music, who popped into the weekly recaps, who made memes about my face in the weekly recaps. No, genuinely, there was like a big stinky loser meme that Brian Fire had that became like a reoccurring theme. And it was that sentiment, man, that like seriously mattered the most over anything, because they were there, they're in it. Yeah, I think that's a roundabout way of saying I think the community really understood, and looking at how the community reacted is the best way to signify like what went down and like how things happened in that respect.
Also, to build off of what Ben was saying, is yeah, over this past year, like having this very strong community has been so amazing, and it's been great to see how aligned people are on the same, I guess, like mission and stuff. But then at the same time, it was like very, I'd say like I guess it like made me think a lot about what kind of infrastructure needs to be set in place in terms of actual community ownership, or I guess to ensure that when someone is, I guess, like when a community is voicing their opinions about something, like how can we take those opinions and then actually, I guess, like address the issue instead of just having a conversation.
And I'm curious, for those listening who don't have the what you wrote at their disposal currently, I'd be curious if you could sum up what your sentiments, what were your major reflections that you encompassed through your writing that you'd like to share.
Absolutely. Yeah, first of all, for anyone who isn't aware, I resigned from Dreams Never Die back in March, and it was something that happened very suddenly, and it was shocking and traumatic for myself and a lot of other people as well. It was a very hard decision, and it was not fun. And I mainly spent a lot of time reflecting on how cool the things that we were doing were, which I think is something that's been difficult, especially seeing how things have progressed and the conversations around Dreams Never Die have evolved. Because I truly think that there were a lot of very important issues that we were addressing with what we were doing and we were working on. And in addition to that, it was just a really fun place. Like I would show up every Friday super excited to just chat and bullshit with everyone. So it was a really fun experience for me and a lot of other people. And I think that is really sad, especially for such a global community with people all across the world involved. And I definitely want to get a little bit more, that whether now or maybe a little bit later, into the specifics of what I was excited about with Dreams Never Die, the things that I found the most exciting and that I think really need to continue being talked about and worked on, which I can talk about forever, honestly. But I think also, Ben and Kiddest, if there is anything that you want to say about what you wrote or that moment, feel free as well.
Most of all, it was really great to see so many people speak out and also just to reach out on a personal note, especially in regards to Steph's article. And I think it was great to hear from people who aren't women. And yeah, I definitely just want to see more of that and appreciated that a lot.
Yeah, I think that's a really great way to put it, Kiddest. And just as a quick coda too, I mentioned this a couple minutes ago, but we got to do like a ton of really cool things, like Cole said, and really had the privilege to like take time and work on them and really have thoughtful conversations, not just among the core team, but with everybody involved about what those issues were, how do we fix them, where do things go from here, which I'm sure like we'll touch on. But yeah, it was definitely a difficult couple of weeks, I think, for everybody involved. I think change doesn't happen for a little bit and then it just happens all at once, good and bad. So it definitely took a couple of weeks to wrap my head around no longer being a part of a project that I cared so much about with people I cared so much about. And it's just part of the grief process, I think. Despite how challenging those weeks were, I've been able to reflect more and parse through all the cool things that we were able to try to do, and just left feeling, I don't know, a ton of gratitude for all the people I like was able to meet and work with. Two of them are on this call, but also Anusha, Jade, the dozens of community members who made fun of me every Friday, and just all the awesome artists that made this community so special. I had a privilege of interfacing with some of the coolest people I've had the opportunity to meet in the music industry. And that doesn't go away, regardless of what's next.
Yeah, cool. Thank you all for sharing. Yeah, and I think it takes courage to share these things, and I appreciate you all for taking the time and creating the space for that. I'm curious, as you alluded to, I spoke with Steph, who, for those listening who aren't aware, we did an episode in which she discussed a moment on a Dreams Never Die town hall in which she was treated in a derogatory way for speaking up, I think, on behalf of the community, and then also wrote a really great piece speaking from the perspective of a woman and what it's like to work in these spaces and how her treatment was not surprising to her, unfortunately. Would encourage everybody to read it who's listening. And I think all three of your pieces and all, of the writing that you've created as well. But yeah, one thing that I'd love to touch on as much as we can is, having spoken with Steph, I got her perspective, but I think the three of you like have obviously a very intimate lens into Dreams Never Die in various capacities. And you all speak very highly about what the community stood for and all the different projects and all the exciting things that were happening and being built. Why did it change? Like, why did it fundamentally change?
I think that there's a timeline of events that can be seen by essentially anyone, which involves restaffing and I also encourage anyone extremely interested in that to, I believe that call is public, and to check out that call. And because Chad and Chris and Jack spoke a lot about those things, specifically about the new direction of the company, about the things that were being changed, and Tyler as well. And the way that they described it was that we're restaffing and we're changing the direction. We're going to be focusing on some key things, which are different than what we were focusing on, different than why I was there. So whenever the mission changed, to me, that's a mission-based project. And the reason why I over 10 years ago started working on Hilly Dilly and continued doing it for so long was because of a mission that I believed in. And if that's not there anymore, then it doesn't feel meaningful to me. So that's definitely one reason. But I also think that, like you said, and like we've all seen, Steph was not treated well. And I think that there are quite a few other people who would say that they were not treated well either. And of course, that's not something that I want to be aligned with.
Anything you'd like to add, Kiddest or Ben?
Yeah, I think I'll just say that towards the end of my time at D&D, I think really signified through that call that everyone I feel like listening could check out if they want to. Some things that I like especially valued. I think one I've mentioned this a ton of times, but that concept of community, the mutual respect that kind of lives within the community as a result of building something with other people, and inclusivity. I didn't think, and I think based on the call especially, it just didn't feel like that was being demonstrated there anymore, at least in the way that it had previously when I decided to come on board and existed there so powerfully throughout the majority of my time there. So I think as I reflect on it, it's definitely the mission and some of the things Cole touched on as well, and me on a personal level, that too.
Yeah, just like seconding what Ben and Cole have said and like what Steph said. I think it's like just like a representative of, I think, also a bigger issue in the music industry in general.
Yeah,
Yeah.
something that I mentioned in my post is that we had the unique privilege of having a community that genuinely cared about music, actually cared about seeing change happen, which is really rare. Like, even no matter where you are, if you have a community that actually cares about something that isn't just financial incentive and financial gain, that is really crazy. Anytime that we did something and our community was happy and excited about it, it was always a really good indicator, because they weren't there. They were there for many of them over a year before there was any sort of NFT release or anything that they could even think about seeing financial gain from. They were there because they enjoyed it, and because there were other like-minded people and really good conversations, and it was an inclusive space. So whenever something like that changes, it's sad for a lot of people. And if that weren't there in the first place, we wouldn't have seen a reaction like we did. People wouldn't have necessarily cared in the way that they did. So to me, it's all a testament to the really cool thing that was happening there.
Some of the community members actually, they made a second Discord like pretty much directly after the all happened. And it's been really great to see everyone still sharing music in there and like continuing like conversations about the music industry and Web3 and sharing demos and stuff. So it's been good to like still stay in touch with everyone.
Cool. No, that's great to hear. And I think that it speaks to the essence of the community, that it is driven by music and a shared love of music, to orient around culture in a way that is not inherently speculative or like leaning into some of the financialized side of crypto and Web3 that so often conflates and gets in the way of a mission, I think, not just in Web3, like everywhere. Once money gets involved and once expectations change and are oriented around money, like it becomes complicated.
And like Cole was saying, like there were like a lot of really great ideas that we wanted to execute on, and I think people especially like in that new Discord channel and just like in personal conversations are also very interested in the future of what that could look like. It's just been an ongoing conversation and still thinking on things. And yeah, I know Cole, you mentioned wanting to touch a little bit on that, so I don't know.
Yeah, no, it was perfect, Kiddest. That was about to be what I asked. So thank you.
Kiddest is the new host.
Yeah. I'm gonna take off.
Sweet. Yeah, sure. Sounds good. To me, I think that there are basically three big problems in music that Web3 is trying to address. I think that one of them is building a missing product. I think a lot of us have acknowledged that there's money being left on the table for artists with the current streaming model, and fans can't support artists in a way that they find exciting and rewarding. Finding the true value of music is another one. I think that's a really difficult question, and blockchain tech makes that possible. And then creating a more direct exchange between artists and fans, which something like Spotify, they don't even tell you who your top fans are. However, I would say that those are the main things that we're seeing a lot of different people try to address in various really creative ways. And I think that the tech obviously isn't widely implemented enough to see something scale yet, but it feels like this really exciting cauldron of ideas with things bubbling up here and there. And it's so small that whenever something goes down, the whole space takes a hit. But regardless, I think that there's enough talented and smart people in this space that we're going to continue coming up with ideas and innovating. What I think was special about Dreams Never Die is that we looked to do something a little bit different than solve those three main problems. Our mission was more focused on creating sustainability for the people in it and creating a better version of a music company and a music community. The core mission, I think, if we were going to sum it up in one sentence, would be that the industry stopped working for the best music as well as the most talented people who care about the best music. And we wanted to work toward fixing that. Um, I would say that there were quite a few ways that we were trying to do that. Once we realized how many different areas we could work on and improve, it was almost overwhelming trying to focus on one because there were so many cool things that we could work on. There's rethinking the artist team. There's making music discovery fun and exciting and rewarding, creating sustainable paths for new artists and the people who work with them, launching talented new artists, bringing great new music into Web3, educating people, creating unique and engaging fan experiences, and building a space for an actual community to flourish rather than be exploited. Those are things that I could talk about forever, and they were a lot of the things that we were pushing toward with Dreams Never Die. And I feel like there are other people who are working on them as well. And I just hope that we continue focusing on these spaces because they absolutely need to be improved. I think anyone who's worked in music can attest to that or been around it. I definitely don't think those missions will stop anytime soon. I think we're going to continue working on them and see people in this space specifically continue working on them.
Yeah, I think that's a really great way to put all of that cool wordsmith. But as I was listening to you speak, and obviously the last couple of weeks, something that I was particularly super excited about, that Keegan, I know you and I have talked about too, is the Scouts community that was built up at Dreams Never Die. I remember when like Cole and I were talking about it, we were like, it was last summer, and it was just like a really fun afternoon. Just I remember when we made that like initial blueprint, Cole. It was awesome in like D&D Notion. But essentially, it was a place where anyone in the community could send in music that we would listen to and or write about the songs that they found or claim songs and get compensated for it. And we really tried to gamify this process to incentivize artists to one, want their music sent in to be a part of the community, but also the people who are actually discovering the artists to want to send their music in because they were getting tangible benefits, not even just the compensation aspect, but a weekly scouts call that we had where we could like listen to some recent submissions and dive into what those are, talk about why or why not this song may be ready for before the data post, for example. What's the pathway for this artist to scale, generally speaking? And it was so much fun, and I think only just made the community stronger in that respect. Like in that vein, as I look forward, I've been thinking a lot about just that concept of this oversaturation of the market. Like I think 200,000 songs are released a day now. I saw a stat where it's increased. Maybe it's 150. It's a lot, and more I think artists need their own at least micro community to scale to start off like a backbone. But even thinking before that, if you were to pull the curtain behind that actual artist community, where do they go before it's built? So with that in mind, I think what the space is needed, and music generally speaking, I think the traditional curation space is definitely suffering a little bit as a result of just the digital mediums with which people send their music and share and connect with other people. But before that artist can even build their own micro community, I think there's a desperate need for a discovery community where people can connect with each other and then prop up the artist before that initial community is built. So in other words, like I think an ecosystem in which artists will want to send their music to is missing and super important. And that was like a huge thing we were trying to like solve and work on through the Scouts community. Like how did Fred again get to the place he's at now? and what does that look like in Web3 before he reaches his critical mass of fans and all those things. And so that's something that I'm keenly interested in, and I think definitely, like Cole said, is being worked on actively, but it's something I'm keenly interested in moving forward.
Yeah, similarly, I'm really interested in that kind of intersection between the music discovery community and then the editorial world, and how communities build like stories around artists and labels and the people who are discovering the artists. And I think right now I'm pretty excited by how Noise DAO has been doing their high frequency compilations and their whole editorial side of things. And yeah, I'm curious to see how just like that space continues to develop, and how the people who were in the Dreams Never Die community also can, I guess, what all three of us end up continuing to do too in that regard.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think you all touched on some really interesting ideas and some really, really central problems that the music industry has to reckon with. I think people have been for a while, have had this realization, but I think, what you're touching on, the ability to tie all of these things together and orient the incentives and align the incentives around like a scouts ecosystem where the scouts are incentivized to find great artists, artists are incentivized to find great scouts. And if you can create that as that connected thread and build upon it, like through editorial, as you're saying, Kiddest, through micro communities, and there's so much that you can build on top of that. So I share your excitement and enthusiasm for working with these problems. And yeah, just briefly, would love to hear how post Dreams Never Die, how you're thinking about your own paths and your own journeys, and what you're interested in getting involved with moving forward.
I think what I'm most interested in, what I touched on, is uh, the artist to fan relationship and how does that develop over time. Kind of like what Cole touched upon. I think using Spotify for Artists is a great example about the extent to which data is provided to artists and their teams over who the fans are, where they live, when they found them, everything in between, and the lack of kind of connection between the artists and the fans to the fans within themselves, I should say, and how that's going to develop over time. I think the value demonstrated within small things like when did a Taylor Swift fan discover Taylor Swift relative to everybody else in their community? Where were they? How old were they? Where did they find them? I think that data, especially leveraging blockchain technology, is very capturable, and it's something I'm like acutely interested in working on and trying to solve that, figure out what that looks like, I should say. And then on top of that, like if you're able to establish and capture that data between artists and fans, I think it just gives more agency and more decision making power in the artist's hands to really foster those connections with their micro communities or big communities as they grow. And then also, generally speaking, what if those micro communities were fostered within a music discovery community at the same time and everything cohabitated and was able to be put under an umbrella, whether it's via a token or something else? And what does that look like over time? And where does that value go? I think the value of music is like a super interesting conversation right now. And I do think within the next 5 to 10 years, we're going to see a fairly significant shift over where and how it's valued. And a lot of that comes down to that individual one on one relationship between an artist and their fan.
I agree. Yeah, Cole Kiddest.
Right now, I've definitely been thinking a lot about ways to push boundaries when it comes to like community collaboration and like collaborative music projects in Web3. And yeah, I really like what Song Camp is doing in terms of like how they're collaborating with their community members. And yeah, I don't know, just like finding more ways to bring that spirit in, because I feel like if you if you have a lot of community members that are collaborating on a specific project, then it's also going to be conducive to, I think, community ownership and a lot of the other issues that I have been seeing in Web3. Yeah.
Yeah, cool. Thanks, Kiddest.
I think it's probably pretty obvious that I'm still really excited about a lot of the things that we were working on at Dreams Never Die. However, I'm taking a bit of a step back to process and spend some time really thinking about how I would like to approach my next step. But I'm just letting all these things simmer and paying attention. And I care a lot about music being really fun and exciting. I think that great music needs to be rewarded properly. I think that artists need to be able to tell their stories the way that they want to. And I think that fans need to actually be able to be fans. These are ideas that are really exciting to me. I joined music because I'm a fan, as so many people did, but I still am just a fan ultimately. And I've found that being a fan is really hard these days. And watching artists that you love struggle so much in so many different ways is not fun. It's really not fun. So I want to, yeah, these are issues that I want to continue thinking about, continue working on. And I'm very excited about the potential future that could come along with a lot of these developments. And I think that the conversation is way bigger than just music. And I think it's about the internet as a whole, as the obviously blockchain and Web3 and all of these ideas are so big. But if we can use this as an opportunity to restructure some of these really difficult, long-lasting issues that we've seen in music, if there can be a new product that is direct between the artist and the fan and doesn't go through a platform that takes a massive cut and adds an ad in there and makes you follow their guidelines for their 9-second if there can actually be a platform for artists to be artists again and fans to directly support them and engage, that sounds cool. That's really exciting to me. So I'm going to continue paying attention to that, being curious about that.
Yeah, cool. Thank you all for sharing. Again, I really appreciate the time and the energy that you've taken to create this space. I know this all happened fairly recently and created changes in all of your lives. So I appreciate you being here to talk about them and to share your unique lenses and experiences and excitement about continuing to do this work. That's certainly palpable, and it's really nice to hear that there are so many people who are very invested in making what we currently have a lot better than it is and orienting it around the right things like connection and relationship and the music itself. And on that note, I just have one more question for you. I'm going to pivot the conversation a little bit. It's to something that I ask everybody at the end of these. And if you could all answer, I'd be very appreciative. So you're going to a desert island. You get to bring 3 albums with
Oh
you.
no.
What
I'm
are
going
they?
last.
So I feel like if I'm on a deserted island, I'm gonna need like some sad girl like music. So Stranger in the Alps.
Nice.
Then I'm also gonna need like a party album of some sort. But oh my gosh, wait, this is actually harder than I thought. Maybe maybe something by Charlie XCX, and then Frank Ocean Blonde.
Good options. Good choices.
This is really tough.
I'm struggling. I'm
All right.
struggling.
It's an impossible question.
I think that this is my answer because honestly, I've been listening to a lot of non-current music lately, just digging back for fun, as a lot of people have. There's an album by the Brazilian bossa nova artist João Gilberto. It's just called
Nice.
1973, and that's pretty much the most soothing album I've ever heard in my life. I think I listen to it like more than anything. You just wake up, you drink your coffee, you put it on, you're going to bed, you're having a stress day. I think that I could just listen to that forever. I'm also gonna choose Tapestry by Carole King because I'm on a huge Carole King
Nice.
wave right now, and I think that those are some of the best pop songs ever. And then I'm choosing a punk album called Pink Flag by the group Wire because if you're on an island by yourself, you need a lot of adrenaline to keep you going. Every once in a while, you're gonna have to have some crazy moments. So I think that's my like spread of emotions.
It's a great trio. It's a great trio. I think you have a lot of different moods covered there for all of what is surely to be a very capricious time on that island. So good trio.
Cole's just gonna be vibing out. Don't let him fool you.
Yeah.
It's gonna feel great.
All right, over to you, Ben. No place left to hide. You got to answer.
Okay, I think the first one I'm gonna pick is "Room for Squares" by John Mayer. I grew up listening to John Mayer. Was the first guitarist I really liked growing up. His first album, which I think is just "Room for Squares" by John Mayer. I'm gonna go with this album by a band called Everything But the Girl, called Amplified Heart. Kevin Abstract posted about it like 4 months ago, and I've been listening to them nonstop since, specifically this album. So we're gonna run with that. It's like a nice mix of like punk and pop during the 90s. And probably Channel Orange. I have a couple, but I think that's the safe bet given where I'm at. I think I just need to bring that just to be safe for my sanity.
Yeah.
But yeah, those would be my 3 picks off the dome.
Cool. Thank you all for sharing. It's like if we had like a mini scouts call or something. And it's been really great. Thank you all for being here and for sharing. Before we sign off, for those who are interested in getting involved or following along with any of the things that you're doing now or will be doing in the future, what's the best place for people to find you?
I'm in Florida. I'm in Ocala, Florida, so try to see if you can get over here. Actually, my handle is currently Cole After Data. I don't know how long it'll be that, but I also just started a Substack. It's called coleryan.substack.com. I don't know if I'm going to share more things there, but I probably will. And that's where I wrote my letter to the community. So check it out. Hit me up. I'm around.
Cool.
Yeah. You guys can find me on Twitter at Ben Frigeri. That's a good place. And also on the Arsenal subreddit.
Nice.
Oh, you should also find him on TikTok.
That's
He's
not
really
even
good
a lie,
TikTok.
Cole, this is being shared to a wide audience. How could you?
Yep. And yeah, you guys can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Kiddest, spelled K1DEST.
Cool. All right, you heard it here. Yeah, thanks again to all of you for being here, for taking this time to share. I appreciate you all and the work that you have done, and I'm sure will continue to do. And thanks again, and wishing you all the best.
Thanks, Keegan. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Thank you. This was great. Really appreciate it.
Absolutely. All right, I'll take care. All right, that's it for this episode of Big Brother and the Hodling Company. I'm your host, McKeegan Voice, and you can keep up with me and all the latest Web3 music trends on Twitter at McKeegan. That's MACEAGON. This show is a production of Decential Media, and you can visit us at decential.io, and remember, only you can prevent and fend off Big Brother.